You can start. Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, April 11th meeting of the Green Bay Planning Commission. What's your pleasure regarding the minutes?
Motion approved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Communications. Item number 1, request by Alderman Tom Duane to bring forward all other changes from state budget that were made during the last 5 years that may take control away from the city of Green Bay that we would normally have power over. Recommendation is referred to the law department, receive and place and file.
All right, Madam Chair, just in reference to that, we felt that the law department was best handled to go through this legal request in terms of just their communications with legal municipalities and just, legal changes. The league has been pretty active in keeping track of those. Not all of them directly, indirectly impact land use and zoning and those types of things. So we feel this was just best sent to the law department in order to review. Just also from a staff perspective, it's pretty extensive undertaking, just looking through legal briefs for the last 5 years and all the state legislation. So we felt legal was best equipped to handle this one.
Okay, is there a reason that this was brought up at this point?
This was a communication made by Alder. This was in regards, I believe, to the cell tower at NEW Lutheran. And just, given where things are at, it really kind of showed where powers have been taken away from the municipalities in this case. And, I think the alderman, wanted to see, all right, this is not only an isolated case, but there's other instances where the state has, rescinded some powers that were traditionally granted to municipalities. And I think this is just to go through and figure out just what those are and to what extent powers have been eliminated or reduced.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Motion for the law department. Second.
Got a motion and a second to refer. All in favor?
You want to receive and place on file also on that motion?
I mean, it was just, depends how, if we're referring it to law, I think that was just one of the options, whether you just wanted to put it to rest or referring it to law, I think accomplishes the same thing.
Okay.
It's off our agenda.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item number 2, request by Alderman Stoyer to allow the revocation of the grandfather clause that allows unpaved driveways and parking areas.
All right, staff recommendation here is also to receive and place on file. Just, I guess another kind of a legal matter. We can't really revoke a grandfather clause in terms of if somebody, when they constructed something, was in compliance at the time of construction, if they abided by the ordinance, the rules that were in place at the time, basically they can withstand unless they make a major change to the property or something that would come through, back through this planning commission. So just whether it's driveways or just any other things, the city really can't go out and proactively make somebody change something. So in this case, it's something that's come across in terms of unpaved driveways that we've looked at, and I think just recently we required something. What was the address? The Shawano and Allard corner.
I know.
They had an unpaved driveway, and they wanted something from the city or making changes, and we required them to pave it. And I think as we look at site plans and other procedural things, that's on our, within our right to make them do that when they come through and doing something. But in terms of just proactively going out and making somebody change it, that's not within, our bounds to be doing that. So at this time, we just wanted to receive and place on file.
Okay, and then is the alderman notified of that?
The alderman will be notified of that, yes.
Motion to receive and place on file. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 3, request by Alderman Stoyer that city planning, DPW, parks, and police examine the county bicycle and pedestrian plan to look at ways to implement more lanes with safety in mind throughout the city.
All right, this is a recommendation also to receive and place on file. 2 things. One, the Traffic Commission, just not this communication, but a similar one, looked at renaming themselves to the Pedestrian, Bicycle, and Traffic Commission. So in terms of just some of the things that they're going to take under their jurisdiction and scope of work. The other is that the county right now is undergoing an update to their bicycle and pedestrian plan. They've been submitting, or they've opened it up for public comment. They received actually hundreds of comments, and they had a map that people could, place on marks where they felt safe, unsafe. And so just basically, they looked at the whole county, city included. As you know, pedestrians, bicyclists don't always stop at the municipal boundaries. We felt it's best to just kind of let the county go through their process before we start to take a look at, all right, what they're recommending, for those things in the city, what's best on that list for us to start taking a look at implementation types of things. So at this time, we just wanted to hold off on that until the county has completed their process.
Okay, great. Yes, Alderman.
When they get re-involved in that, I think they should also entertain the thought of getting together with Downtown Green Bay Committee. Merkus and the group down there, I've gone on that committee, we discuss these things quite lengthily sometimes, and they've got some definite input, and they should also have some input for the city, basically.
Sure. Downtown Business District?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Merkus gang there.
Move to receive and place on file.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 4, request by Alderman Stoyer for the following. A zoning map and short report showing the locations of R1, R2, R3, R4, and MF in the city and the percentage of each against the zoning district. A land use map and short report showing the locations of SF, 2F, and MF in the city and the percentage of each against the total land use.
All right. Recommendation is receive and place in file. This one is just simply a staff workload issue right now, and we just in-house do not have the capacity to get this done in short order, and just, I guess I'll leave it at that.
Do we already have something like this? I would think with maybe with the overall.
We do, and this is something I've talked to the alderman about, just in terms of, I'm hoping in the next few months here, we're going to be talking internally just about things that we might do with the department and just, positions and moving forward. And so I wanted to kind of keep track of that, and it's in our queue. It just, right now where things stand in terms of, there's not a specific purpose or function that this is going towards a specific planning project or use project at this time. This may come up again as we maybe revisit some of the discussions on transient uses and just the balance of those things. But at this time, this isn't for an imminent planning project. And so that was just, again, from kind of staff workload, just the recommendation to receive and place on file at this time.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 5, request by Alderman Tim Duane to reconsider the zoning at the 1200 block of East Mason Street. Recommendation again is receive and place on file.
All right, I spoke with Alderman Tim Duane on this, and once again, into a little bit of the details of what this required. This really wasn't a proactive plan commission action, but it's something that the property owner would need to fill out a request for plan commission action to do. So I talked with him about that, got him the application to do so, and just kind of talked with him what he needs to tell the property owner who's interested in doing this, just about the steps to go forward with doing that. But again, just city policy, we don't really go out and proactively rezone other properties without their permission. That needs to come from the property owner. So I discussed that with Alderman Duane, and he referred the application back to the property owner.
Great, thank you.
Motion received, place on file.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Item number 6, request by Alderman Moore to eliminate all permit fees for private lead pipe service line upgrades through December 31st, 2017.
Sure. Right now, we'd like to have you refer that to staff for us to take a look at. And Alderman Moore is here today, so I don't know if you wanted to suspend the rules and if you wanted to speak a little bit more about where he's going, or just...
Would you like to speak about it?
Sure. I mean, I don't really need to get, this is fine referring this to staff, we can work on this, but, we're working with Nancy Corp right now, we're only looking at possibly 100 that are on the private side that'll need to make that connection, and that's a pretty low number, and I put a date of December 31st, 2017 on here, so that we've got about 18 months basically to get all those private ones done and have that part of the equation taken out so we can start working on all of the city-owned ones and getting the lead out of the city here. So I'm happy with the recommendation to send this to staff, and then I'll work with staff on that.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, to refer to staff. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 7, request by Alderman Weary to amend the comprehensive plan to create a stadium entertainment district bordered by Ashland Avenue, Lombardi Avenue, Holmgren Way, and the border with Ashwaubenon.
All right, our recommendation here is to receive and place on file. This is a request that came up at the end of last fall from Alderman Weary. The reason for receiving and placing this on file, you'll see in new business item 12. We believe as staff are following through with this. You'll have before you a request from our staff to hire a consultant to move forward with this. As I mentioned earlier, I think it's really preemptive just to say, all right, we're going to amend the comprehensive plan without really having any kind of data or evidence behind what are we amending it to, or what are we going to include in it, or changing these types of zoning without going through basically a planning process and talking to the property owners that are there, talking to the neighbors that are around there, and working with interested stakeholders to say, okay, well, what should we be doing in that area? So with that specific request is to receive and place on file. But again, through number 12 on your agenda tonight, I think we'll be taking that up and moving forward with the intent of Alderman Weary's request.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, to receive and place on file. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Old business, none. New business, discussion and action on the request to approve a site plan for Eaton Heights condominiums located at 821 through 917 Barronwood Drive, submitted by David Meister, Mao and Associates.
Thank you. This is an application just to review the site plan for this property. So this is part of a larger development that had occurred. As you can see here, this is the subject area that we're talking about, which is lot 23 on the Eaton Heights plat. This would be Huron and Humboldt Roads, the Celebration Church here, just for a frame of reference. So this is the underlying comprehensive plan and zoning, but there is a PUD over this zoning area. And this is the original plat that was approved. So within this plat, this was all the single-family development here. This was approved condominiums, and this is approved commercial. And this was established back in 2003. So there were some concerns from the neighbors concerning the use of condominiums in this area, but this had been approved from the beginning of this development. So we're not looking at the use specifically with this application, just the site plan itself to make sure it's cohesive with the neighborhood. So this is the general site plan that they've outlined here. So as you can see on the site plan, they're showing 17 total units. The original plat that they're going through right now for a condo plat is just for the beginning 6 units, which are shown right here. So again, this is Huron Road right here. This is just 2 buildings, 3 units in each building. So only 6 units to start, which is not a very high density considering that condos can be a lot of very high density. There could be a couple stories here. These are single-story buildings. Some of the things that are required is 50% masonry or EIFS, something that breaks up the facade. This has got very good structurally as far as what's on the front of the building. The garages blend pretty well into the building themselves, and there's landscaping across the front here. It's only single story, so it does meet the height requirements. It's not too much in density, so it meets all the basic requirements of the PUD. This is a conceptual landscape plan that they have. Considering that this will be single family use with the condos there, there's not really a lot of landscaping that's required by the code. There's no buffering required here because it's bordered by roadways. Everything else here will be residential. Across the road is residential. So it does just show minor landscaping here along the property line. The basic concerns that were coming up from the neighbors, which there are some emails attached to your packet, were a lot with traffic, just to make sure that it wasn't too much of an increase, that there would be some safety issues put in here. Within the Eaton Heights original plat, sidewalks were required along the roadways. Some of the neighbors live along here. It's mostly up through Adeline Court and then down this area. This is also getting developed as a plat with no application yet. So I've made a request with the Department of Public Works to see if we can get those sidewalks installed for them, which should help with some of the traffic concerns that they currently have. But as far as the condos are concerned, they do show sidewalks around on both sides of the public right-of-way, which is required. And then also something that's not shown on the site plan that we have as a condition of approval is that they would need a sidewalk or trail system within this big lot here. That was a requirement on the original plat, and it's shown on the condo plat, but it's not shown on the site plan here. So we would require a trail system within that would be more of a common area for that section, and also take the traffic from Huron Road to be able to get into the subdivision a lot easier from that roadway. So basically, they met all other conditions of the PUD. We don't see any other issues with that. I did have our traffic engineer run a trip estimate on this. He had estimated about 36 new trips a day with phase 1, which is that 6 units that's already platted, and then 100 new trips a day with the total development of 17 units. If there are any changes in the site plan or the unit count, it would have to come back to Plan Commission for approval. And then we also have, again, that we would be holding our occupancy permits until we have the sidewalks installed, just to be sure that this time around, the sidewalks get in prior to people coming in. So that should help with a lot of carrying traffic, specifically pedestrians and bicyclists around this area quite well. So with that, we are requesting approval with those conditions that are all listed here. Most of which that this also goes through the internal site plan review process, which is with Inspection, Department of Public Works, and then Planning Department. So there are still some outstanding issues on our internal request, but if there are any major changes, that would come back through for the final approval at this body.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, Alderman Orzachowski.
Those streets have different names right now. One is Satellite, and then it goes in, changes as you come around the corner.
Yeah, this is the one that was approved in 2003, so it's had some changes since then in the
Okay.
plating
So
area.
The map hasn't changed yet?
No.
Okay. And I've had some issues with the postal deliveries there because they name one street one thing and it's on the postal thing another way. I would like to see that straightened out even as we sit here right now before the city goes ahead. I think that should be straightened out.
Okay.
The other issue that I would have with this whole plot, if in fact the sidewalks were in there, let's get them in.
I agree.
Because otherwise you're going to have sidewalks going nowhere. So I don't understand why, I guess maybe it's something we fell behind on, we just didn't follow up on it or something, because there's quite a few houses along that one, not Amboy anymore, but it's actually Satellite, where the houses basically are. And I think pressure should be put on to get those sidewalks done, get the streets straightened out. And yes, I do realize, double checked on the fact, I thought, well, here we go again, Jerry's got another issue. You stopped, looked at the sign, there it said condominiums on the sign, so that's about all I had concerns, basically. And above all, they have to work with the people who live there. And they've got some very nice homes, very nice people, it's a nice quiet area, a lot of children. So that should all be appreciated and actually work with the people. And be a neat place to have a neighborhood association. I always wanted to have another neighborhood association.
Yeah, there's one out there, yeah.
And I think they have enough people there now, and boy, now would be the time to get that neighborhood association going. As this develops, the input would be fantastic from the neighborhood association, which is always appreciated quite well. So I guess quite a few people here tonight. Please give that some serious thought. And I think that would be a good idea for you to do that. And with that, I think that's pretty well taken care of for me. Oh, the other thing I really, and I know it's just a sketch again, but wow. I thought the landscaping was horrid.
Yeah.
Let's
The thing
do-
is,
let's do
I
something
think
about
that they were
that.
anticipating a higher density in the condominium use here, which is why they had the landscape plan required for this.
Yeah.
But these are basically one extra duplex. So there's not really a lot, because I think we were anticipating a lot of buffering that was going to be required, but it's not required with this kind of a use, this kind of a density. So
Yeah,
I think it'll
last-
just be up to the homeowner.
And last but not least, I imagine most of this traffic will be actually channeled over to Humboldt, basically, and then down Huron, right? Or is it all going down Spartan, because we have enough problems already with Big Highlands?
I believe that the main access point will be Huron.
Pardon me?
I believe the main access point will be Huron.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that's all I had for now, and I'll weigh in later after we hear it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, why don't we, thank you. Why don't we suspend the rules? We've got a couple people here. Joanne Sawicki.
Floor is open, would you please come up and you can say your piece?
Joanne Sawicki can come up. Anybody else here who would like to speak, please go ahead and fill in a sheet, and then you come up one at a time to speak when you're called on. Thank you.
I'm just looking for a couple of clarifications. You were talking about sidewalks? Sidewalks for the existing houses or sidewalks for the new, the side where the new condos are going?
Well, based on the emails that I received from you and your neighbors, I realized there are no sidewalks out there right now.
Right.
So I put in a request to DPW to have them look into that to see what the process would be, because that would be something with engineering, they would have to put those in. But as neighbors and citizens, you could also request the Department of Public Works to have those sidewalks looked at as well. Because with the plating process, they were a lot more lenient, a lot longer ago about when they would be put in. They would say they would put them in, but they didn't necessarily have to. Now with our plating code, it's required that they're in before we get occupancy permits. So it's something that I plan to follow up on.
So required for the part you're developing?
Yes, so
That
concerning
side of the
yours,
street?
we plan to, I just put the request in a DPW, they'll have to take care of that. With this one specifically, sidewalks are required on both sides of the road and then within the development itself. So that will have to be done prior to the occupancy of those condos.
Okay, so you're saying we're all going to get a bill for sidewalks?
Not for these. Whoever would be owning these would be
No,
for yours.
existing
If you want
residential
sidewalks,
are
it's usually
there.
how it's done through assessment, I believe. Kevin.
If we want sidewalks, if we don't want sidewalks.
Well, they're required, so.
There you go, there's the clarification. We all
Wasn't
want
that on the
sidewalks.
builder? Wasn't that on the builder though to get the sidewalks in?
Yes.
So then he pays for it.
So does that mean that people who are there with their existing homes have to add them? Or does that mean that they should have been added, and now that they haven't been added, they don't need to be added?
Not necessarily. I believe typically when a developer would do a subdivision, they would have to have the sidewalks put in. If somebody already owns that parcel, whoever owns it would get assessed back for that cost. People who don't own any parcels, the developer pays for that and then it's assessed back at the time of purchase, I believe.
Yes.
Thank you.
So-
Please, anybody who's in the, sitting out here, if you would like to speak, please fill something out. Otherwise, please let the person up here speak, and nobody else talks during that time. Thank you very much.
I think another concern that we have is the traffic pattern. It is not going to go out to Spartan. People in that neighborhood go to Huron. We all zero down Barronwood and go out on Huron, which is already a very difficult intersection to get out of from our neighborhood. You've got that hill on Humboldt and Huron, which blocks the traffic. And in winter, with all of the additional snow piles, it's a very difficult, very dangerous corner to go out, but that's the way people go out. That's the way they go. Even coming down Satellite, the other one, they don't go out Spartan. They come down Barronwood and go out. So I think the whole assessment that you think people are going to go out Spartan is
I don't believe that they will. I believe
probably
they will
not.
go out here. The people who
Huron.
are living in these condos will go out on here.
They'll go out Huron, yeah. It'll be that much more traffic trying to get across an already bad intersection.
Yeah.
That's
And I did
the-
have that report from the traffic engineer in here, I'm not sure if you've seen that at all, where he just talks about the trips that are generated. But again, he doesn't see a decrease in safety for pedestrians or for vehicular access. He said the roads are built for it, but again, you guys can always talk to the Department of Public Works to see if there are any sort of traffic calming that might be necessary there. That's not something that we can't require out of this condominium, because based on the reports, the traffic will be minimally impacted and the decrease in safety won't occur.
Okay. And can you go back to the picture that showed the front view of the condos? What are we talking about? 2-stall garages, 1-stall? I see, what are you talking about? Garages, square footage, do we know anything like that about them yet?
I do not, but the developers here. I believe that each garage has, or each unit has one garage and then an accessory stall for the outside ones. Steve?
Yes.
So as
So-
far as square footage, you might be the person to answer
I
that.
can't quote the square footage. I'm the surveyor, actually.
So they're 2-stall
The
garages?
the outside units will have 2-stall garages with a 3rd stall added on.
Okay.
The center unit will have a 2-stall garage.
Okay,
I don't know how big the units are inside, though.
yeah. Well, of course, we have a concern that they stay value-wise comparable to what else is in the neighborhood at this point
Yeah,
in
and I think
time.
adding the 3rd stall garage certainly helps add value to the project, so.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else.
I'm sorry. I need you to address the plan commission, and if
Yeah.
somebody else wants to speak, they can come up and speak.
All right, let me just check real quick here.
Okay.
I'm assuming these are all expected to be owner occupied? They're not rental units? Yeah,
Well,
I
just
don't
like
think
any
they're
other development, they could be bought and then rented out.
Rented out, okay. And probably the only other thing that I had is you have that large out area with nothing built in it. You know, what are they gonna do with it? What are the plans for all of that?
No plan at
Just,
this point. Again, on here, they have the requirement they'd have to do that sidewalk trail within, but we don't have a design on that yet, so. But this would be, as it's planned, this should be fully developed at this point.
So it's just empty space with no
Trailer.
plans to have anything on it at this point in time?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have, so if any of my neighbors have something, they can sign in. So, thank you.
Thank you. Would any of the other neighbors like to speak tonight?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I didn't sign it, though.
If you come on up and state your name and address,
Oh.
that'll work.
Dennis Newfalls on Watercrest. Just Huron is absolutely terrible in the wintertime. I mean, you're risking your life. And where we live, you can't even get out in the open anywhere. There's no sidewalks available on Huron. They're all across the road. Trying to get across the road there is crazy. And it's only get more populated. And the traffic just in that little area is really good. It might not be as much traffic, but it's dangerous. And that hill's so high up, I don't know why they built that high up. You leave the fire station, it's straight down. Everybody goes 45, 50. It's just, in the wintertime, it's just scary. I don't know how many people almost had accidents. If you look, you'd see the stop sign almost hit a few times, fire hydrants. You don't, and then when they plow the snow, that doesn't open it up again. It's closed, so you're going through a snowbank on Huron Road with sunrise coming down at you. It's scary. And someone's gonna get, but people have got hurt and killed there how many times? And it's gonna continue and get worse if this is built too. That's all I gotta say, I guess.
Thank you. Are there any questions for him? Okay. Thank you, sir. Steve Vita?
Steve Vita, the surveyor, just representing the development group, A Settlement Investments. The square footage is just, the one lady had asked, the square footage is first floor 2,300, 1,900, and 2,300 will be the square footage, so they're pretty sizable units. That's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
So about 2,300 average?
Yeah, the two end ones are 2,300 with a 3-stall garage, the center one is 1,900.
Okay.
So it'll probably be the same, well, they're all the same building. We do have one 2-unit building in there, but those are gonna be the 3-stall units on the bottom left there. Okay.
Now, is there going to be the common area that you talked about earlier? With,
Yeah, the center part is just open green space. We had one time had put some units in there, but just didn't make sense. All those backyards face to the common green space, it'll just be a common element owned by all of them, so.
And then will there be landscaping put in that area?
Not that I know of right now, there is gonna be stormwater management in there. This site was never planned to go to the regional stormwater pond, so there will be some stormwater management. That's kind of what the arc lines are up there, you know, kind of on the left top, behind the one unit. There's gonna be some stormwater management facility in there, so.
Okay, and then how about walking trails?
The walking trails, the developer hasn't gone through it with me yet, quite how they want to do it, because we're looking at, obviously there's sidewalks all the way around, so we're trying to figure out what additional sidewalks we would do that would make sense, because we don't really want the public coming through the project to, you know, cut through, because then you'd want an easement, then you have liability issues and all that, so it's a little tougher situation to plan out, I guess. Okay,
Any questions?
thank you.
Thank you. We will return to regular order of business. This has been on the book since 2003.
2003.
And in the works and plans, basically. Yes, Alderman.
I'm getting a lot of things in here, just as a last will and testament, basically. I've experienced this, and maybe we can probably look into it as a planning commission or something, that when these things like sidewalks are actually proposed, proposed in the initial development plan, that somehow we should make that builder responsible for those sidewalks. I had one in another area that went for several years with the sidewalk just ending in people's yards. And all of a sudden, the neighborhood association came along, they wanted to finish the sidewalk, and it made sense because it was for safe passage for the kids to school. And whenever that term comes up, it has an awful lot of thrust, basically, in getting things done. And this particular piece of sidewalk, the house had actually changed owners like twice, and nobody ever knew about the sidewalk going through there. And I think there's gotta be some way we gotta get that on there and get the builder, maybe the realtors, and everybody up front telling people, instead of surprising them. This just makes an ugly, ugly arrangement. And I think somehow, if we could visit that or put that on your legend to maybe look into how you do that, or maybe find out how they do it other places. Because you got the same thing again here tonight. I see that times all those nice houses there. And so far, when I read the agenda, I thought, wow, looks like they got the builder on this one. Now, here we are. No, now the residents are gonna have to pay for it. They probably knew nothing about it. Nobody ever told them. That's not good. Thank you.
Thank you. Typically, what happens now when developments go in, I mean, I'm thinking that, for example, this site plan that came forward, we're looking at it and saying, okay, these have sidewalks, so you already know that there are sidewalks that go in, and the developer knows that, and the developer needs to do that. And I'm not quite sure how the other developments, the other homes got built without those sidewalks going in.
From what I understand, the plating code wasn't as strong in the past, so once the comprehensive plan got updated, it said that sidewalks should be required in all new divisions. That's when our plating code got updated. So now with this, we're planning to do where we'll hold our occupancy permits, because it says that we can hold them, we plan to hold them. So that way we can verify that sidewalks get installed, the same way that our inspectors make sure that the buildings will be inhabited. We want to make sure that the sidewalks are also being addressed at that initial point, versus on the tail end going through a year later to go do my site visits and going, oh, there's no sidewalk here. So we're going to be doing it where the inspectors go out and verify that the sidewalks are installed prior to giving the occupancy permit.
That's great.
Oh, great.
Because I got the same thing in another area where now
Yeah, it's a big problem.
I can see that working. The sidewalks are going in right over the lawns. That's good. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Sounds like you got it.
I do.
Thank you.
Any other questions? A motion.
I recommend approval, subject to the conditions listed.
I'll second that motion.
Got a recommendation and a second? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. This will go to city council?
No,
No?
nope. This was just in the original PUD, you just said that all site plans would have to come back through to plan commission for approval,
Okay.
So
this
it
is
just
the
gets
final
internal
line.
approval through us, inspection, and DPW.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming in. Item number 9, discussion and action on the request to rezone from Highway Commercial District and Office Residential District to Downtown District, and authorize a conditional use permit for a gas station convenience store at 515 West Walnut Street and 113 South Maple Street, submitted by Quick Trip Inc.
Hey, Madam Chair, I don't have a graphic for this one, but the applicant did send an email in this past week asking to have this item held up until the next available meeting. So our recommendation is to table the item at this time.
Motion to table.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item number 10, discussion and action on the request for a conditional use permit to authorize a two-family dwelling in a low-density residential district located along the northwest corner of Deckner Avenue and Lorraine Terrace the 2600 block of Deckner Avenue, submitted by Ryan Radu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for a conditional use permit for a two-family dwelling in an R1 district. The property is highlighted in red. This is Deckner Avenue, kind of running east and west. Kind of tough as a reference point, but Preble High is back this way here. This is Deckner, and this is the future Lorraine, which would head to the north. Berry Creek is just off the map a little bit here. This area is all yellow, which means it's all R1, low-density residential. City's, comprehensive plans, low-density residential. The zoning is R1, low-density residential. This intended use is compatible with the city's comprehensive plan. As I mentioned, this request is for a two-family dwelling. This was provided by the developer as an elevation looking towards Deckner Avenue. This is a basic site plan that they also provided showing the placement, Deckner on the south and Lorraine on the east side. In the review of this request, there are several other two-family dwellings in this neighborhood. Try and point them out a little bit. There's about 4 or 5 on the south side here. There's a single family, and then there's another 3 or 4 that run contiguous on the north side. These are mainly single families on this side. We did notice property owners within 200 feet, as you see from this, and we did receive an objection from the adjoining property owner to the west. And her email or letter is attached within the agenda tonight, and unfortunately she's out of the country, so she cannot attend. Because of basically a saturation of two-family dwellings here and the neighbor not being able to attend, we're asking that this item be tabled until the next available meeting so we can have that neighbor possibly come in and express their concerns, and we can further discuss the number of two families in the area. I did talk to Alderman Tom Duane just before the meeting, and he's unable to attend, but he also agreed with holding the item at this time.
Motion to table?
Do I get a chance to talk or not?
Well, since we're tabling it, but we're not making any decisions on it tonight. And
Do I get to?
what is,
The applicant.
The applicant.
okay.
Can I come in?
Come on up and speak, we'll suspend the rules.
Ryan Radu with Radu Homes, Radu Realty.
Thank you.
Well, I understand the motion to table or the concern from the planning. I guess I've never been to a meeting in a planning commission where they've tabled something because one person can't attend, because frankly, I mean, if that's how business was done, we'd never get anything done, right? So I guess I think I received the email from Paul as well, and I guess I understand what her objection is. I think her objection is very clear, and I don't know that she's necessarily going to bring up anything new or different in 2 weeks from now. So I'm really just acting as the realtor and possibly the builder on this one, but the seller is very eager. We've had that property for sale for 4 years going on. Tried to sell it as a single-family lot, tried to sell it. It's been for sale the whole time, haven't had anything. We even had Habitat for Humanity was interested, and they wouldn't even make an offer on it. So they're eager to get something done. The other thing that's pressing on this, why I'm really speaking, is that the people that would like to build the duplex, they have relatives that are in their mid-80s that are now living with them because they don't have a place to go, so they're eager to get this done. They want to make this a handicap accessible type duplex, and again, based on the neighborhood, I just think it's going to be a more expensive building than anything that's within, pretty much within the area. I mean, it's probably going to be a $300,000 duplex, and whatever else is there is, average probably $150,000. So this is going to be a very nice building. To the east where Lorraine Terrace is, I mean, planning could tell you for sure, but my anticipation is that Lorraine Terrace will never be improved based on, that goes right into a ravine into an ESA area. So even if you can see the gravel trail that goes from what is Sylvester Way, that little stub that goes back there, that's the road pattern that I think is going to happen, so that likely will never happen. So to the east of this duplex, there would be a large 70-foot buffer there that would be there forever. And I guess to the west, the one neighbor, obviously she's concerned about, property values, things like that. If there's, if there's any requirement of buffering, fencing along the west line, I mean, that would all be, something that we would obviously do if that made sense, so.
I'm curious, why do you suppose it hasn't sold for single-family use?
It's kind of one of those in-between spots, you know, there are a lot of duplexes there, so to build a new, you know, single-family house that's gonna be, you know, anywhere from $160,000 to $200,000, kind of tough. They brought their price down, they were asking in the mid-30s at one point, all the way down to 19.9, so I mean, you know, for the neighborhood, where lots behind it sold for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, it's really reasonable. It's kind of one of those transition spots that makes it a tough sell. I had somebody down the road wanted to move a house there at one time, tried to put that together, that didn't help. I mean, obviously, that would have been, to me, that would have been worse for the neighborhood than a brand-new duplex, but. So I guess, like I said, I'm just, there's a little bit of a time element, and I guess, I've done the planning commission things, not here, but in other places a lot of time, I found it a little unusual that just because one person can't attend, and I think she did give her explanation well, so.
Where are the
That's it.
duplexes on
It's like right across the
Can I
street.
point?
there?
Yes, there's one of them here, I think this one's a duplex. There was one on this side and then, yeah, here, 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 here. I mean, there's quite a few of them, so it's pretty, I mean, there's quite a few there already. And most of those houses, I would think, were built in the, in fact, the house to the west of it's probably, what I would think is one of the newer ones. I think that was built in '92. Most of those were built in the mid-'80s, guesstimate. So a lot of those duplexes, and her concern is property value and things like that, and problems with other duplexes in the area. Well, you know, anytime you get homes that are 25 years old, or at least in my experience, you know, you start to worry about the maintenance issues and things like that. That wouldn't be necessarily an issue with something that's brand new, so.
Are there any questions for Mr. Rodu?
Well, it says here that part of the reason they wanted to table the request was because the property owner wasn't able to attend.
No, the neighboring property owner, that'd be the property owner to the west.
That's not what it says here, but it might have been enough.
It's a neighboring property to the west. The immediate neighbor to the west.
Well, House of the Alderman's not, couldn't attend.
Correct.
Is that another reason for tabling?
Yes.
That's
He has concerns about the number of two families, and he was unable to attend. He apologizes.
That weighs pretty heavy on my decision.
So he basically requested Tom doing. Oh,
I don't know that he requested, he agreed. He asked our recommendation, I told him what our recommendation was. He'd been out there today, I think he drove Deckner Ave and looked at it, and he agreed with staff's recommendation at this point.
and what's staff's recommendation at this point?
To table.
Table it.
To table.
To
okay.
table, yes.
All right.
Okay, well, in lieu of the fact that the alderman has agreed to that, and is supportive of that idea, I'm going to go ahead and second the motion to table.
Okay. Well, we'll have to return to regular order of business. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for voicing your concerns. So we've got a motion to table and a second?
In a second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now, what happens next with this?
We can bring it back to the next plan commission meeting. We'll make contact with that owner, let them know what happened tonight. Let the alderman know, of course.
Okay. And then after that, does it go through the city council for 2 readings?
Just one reading.
One reading? Okay. So next plan commission meeting is in 2 weeks, correct?
The 25th.
On the 25th? All right, so most likely we'll see you back then.
I might not be able to attend, so I might have to have somebody, but that's part of but I'll make that happen, so.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I believe the next city council meeting would be the 3rd
Of May. Yeah.
of May.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, item number 11, discussion and action on request to vacate an unimproved roadway, Camel Court, submitted by Steve Vita, Merrill and Associates.
Thank you. This is quite a boring and confusing application all at the same time. So this is Camel Court as it exists today, which is nothing. This Ferndale comes through here. Part of this had gotten platted. Part of this was supposed to get platted and never got finalized. So right now what the developer is doing a whole new plat of the entire area. With that, they have this originally platted as a 70-foot wide right-of-way. They want to decrease that down to 60-foot right-of-way. So they had to vacate the existing right-of-way to replat it at the more narrow width. That meets our minimum requirements for road width, and it also is in taking with our comprehensive plan to have narrow roadways within subdivisions. So with that, that's what it's going to look like. And we are recommending approval of this request as long as they do the rededication with the plat that they have currently being processed with our department.
Yes.
Don't we have a problem with cul-de-sacs being too narrow already and an issue with trying to get outside contractors in town because of a problem? I thought we were heading towards making them bigger, not smaller.
It doesn't
Is this
necessarily
gonna
change
work
the
okay?
size of the bulb. I asked DPW and they were agreeable to it, so
Okay, yeah, all right.
we'll see.
If Steve's agreeable, I guess. Interesting.
No, just Steve, I don't see him in here, so.
Recommend approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to recommend approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, item number 12, discussion and action on request from planning staff to hire Verbiture to complete the Stadium Entertainment District Master Plan.
Thank you. So this is a follow-up to the request from Alderman Weary about a stadium entertainment district. So the Economic Development and City Planning team has been working together to try to figure out what we can do with this area. So we sent out a request for qualifications to 12 firms. We received 6 proposals back, and through that we interviewed 3 different firms. We have the final proposals on the desk for you. They're a little too large to email, so if you want to just thumb through them, you can. Basically, we chose the firm here because they had a lot of very practical and realistic implementation plans. It's very based in getting the citizens involved, all the stakeholders involved. This area is a little different because there aren't that many property owners. There's only a handful of them. So what we're looking at here, Ashland's right here. This is Lombardi. Let's see, Stadium View Bar is right here. So we have that Brett Farr Pass that comes in, so the city lines actually doesn't end on the street, which is a little odd. Ashwaubenon here. Ashwaubenon is working through a master pedestrian plan right now, and they have some access points that they would like to break through to kind of pull the 2 municipalities together. And the firm was very intuitive to those things. Also, we'll be looking at the Packers District Plaza that they have been proposing. We want to make sure that this is very year-round use, that we'll be able to utilize it as a public space versus right now it's industrial with a mix of tourism. So this will be redefining the land uses, making sure that the land patterns work, and putting in sidewalks so people are not walking on the roadways in the dead of winter or during Packer games. So with that, we are requesting that you authorize the firm and the project itself, and the redevelopment authority will be looking at the funding because there is a TIF district in this area.
Sounds great to me.
Findings of use.
Sidewalks, that would be exciting.
Yeah, I think just one of the things, we've talked about in response to Alderman Weir's request, what's the future land uses and recommended uses for this, as it's transitioned from, industrial area to entertainment. And then the second that's, physically evident if you've been down there is getting around on foot. We were looking at it, for Packers games, really for all the events that go on at the Resch and Shopco, and especially if they're going to be moving forward with expansion or redevelopment there. We just want to make sure when people are coming to these events, they're able to come and go safely. And to Stephanie's point too, just how do we move forward, making sure this is also just 365 destination type of place.
Motion approved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So off the record, I just have a question. I wonder why Alderman Weary is the one who brought this forward when this is Alderman Zima's district. Even though, it doesn't
Yep.
matter who does it, but I'm just curious.
I think initially Alderman Weary's concern, as he put about, I think adult entertainment in that area and talked about it. I did speak with Alderman Zima just about the process that we had engaged in and moving forward with a consultant and did discuss this with him. And he notified me that he would be happy with whatever staff recommended. So whether it's he or Alderman Murray who gets involved in terms of, some of the stakeholder groups, I mean, it's open to the public, it's gonna be a public process. So in terms of, Alderman Zima, I mean, we've informed him of this process and he's okay with us moving forward with it as well. Yep.
Thank you. Informational item number 13, request by Alderman Scannell and Alderman Stoyer to set aside funding for the Velp Avenue Corridor Brownfield Redevelopment Plan, also referred to the Economic Development Authority and the Redevelopment Authority.
All right, so this is just informational item. We've discussed here a little bit about planning processes and what's kind of the next steps and the two projects that we're going to be undertaking this year. One is the Uptown area, the Stadium Entertainment area, and the second is Velp Avenue. We see Velp as being very much similar to University Avenue in terms of there's a lot of brownfields, which prompted some of the funding to get this study going in terms of identifying some of those brownfields. And there's a lot of underutilized commercial. But yet, in the same sense, it's connected to a lot of residents very nearby, and it's a very heavily trafficked area. So with that, we would like to use some of our brownfield funds that we already do have secured right now, and staff will be putting in an ask for potential use of 2015 carryover funds to fund phases. The Brownfields Fund would fund phase 1. The carryover request would look at phases 2 and 3. Ultimately, we would get to the point where we do, like we done on University Avenue, and have a complete corridor brownfields redevelopment plan. And as you've seen it, you start with the brownfield identification, you start with the planning process of where you want to go, and then you look at, all right, well, what tools do we have to get there, whether it's a TID or just other things that you can do in the area, and hopefully then that moves forward and leads to projects. And I think we've seen the success, given what we've got moving forward with the festival and Quick Trip and that Triangle site, and now renewed interest in the JBS site and the Tillman site and other smaller properties around there. So with that, this is kind of the first step in moving forward with that. And we still have other corridors that we need to look at, but this logistically is the next quote unquote right one to be looking at. So with that, we've made application just to allocate some of our brownfield funds to working on that. And as I said, we put in a request to have some of the carryover 2015 funds go towards funding the additional stages of this process.
Any questions?
That's a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what exactly are the phases, or do they have ideas in place right now? I mean, if they've got a phase 1.
Yeah, I don't have it right up. We've scoped out, the phase 1 is primarily just, identifying the brownfields and just, getting a better sense. We've done just some initial windshield survey work and being like, okay, these probably brownfields, and there's a lot of properties that probably are. Phase 1 involves digging in a little bit more in terms of, okay, the history of those, looking at, land use records and some of the Sanborn maps and just, digging on that. And then phases 2 and 3 move a little bit more about future land use and then future tools. I don't know if more you had a comment or?
I was just going to mention the Citizens Steering Committee
Yeah.
added great value on University Avenue. I would strongly recommend that you have the neighborhood input through a steering committee on this as well.
Would be good.
Yes, that is definitely one of the things that we're going to be putting together in terms of, again, the partnership between city staff and the consultant on this, that, they're the ones kind of planning the plan in a sense.
So how many years will this take?
We're hoping to have it wrapped up.
Just wondering if I'll be alive
Like totally developed. Wow.
Careful now when you get to that topic, okay?
I mean, the planning aspect of it, we'd like to have wrapped up this year. I think the timetable, we could do it this year. I'm just backing up in the other project. The Uptown one would be done this year, probably late summer, early fall. So we want to do this one this year. These are kind of the two, again, I said, kind of focus areas for the staff.
Having been involved in the University Avenue, this is exciting too. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
lots of work too. Wow.
Well, there's a lot of potential. I mean, there's a lot of potential.
It is the main corridor in downtown, you do. Fantastic. Look at all the work lined up there on one side of the road.
Thank you. This is exciting. Okay, director's update.
All right.
Did you want to
Just-
take a vote on this?
Do we-
Take a vote on?
I just had it on here as informational. I mean, if you want to just take a vote to move forward with it or proceed as directed, I mean, I'd take a motion just to direct staff to proceed.
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, please do.
All right.
Aye.
All right, our 321 meeting was canceled, so I'm just going back in to make sure I cover everything from the March 7th meeting.
Actually, I've got a question as far as
Sure.
the citizen steering committees. Do you usually tap the neighborhood associations in that area? Because that's pretty much my neck of the woods.
Yeah, I think the neighborhood associations, and we also just, start trying to talk to business owners who, really get a good feel of the neighborhood.
Okay, excellent. That's all I had.
And usually there's a plan commission member who's part of that, too.
Correct.
I grew up I lived in that area.
All right, so you want to be,
You want to
Okay.
throw down?
No, that's good.
Good.
all right, well, maybe insert the neighborhood side, we can fit you both.
Actually, I represented that area.
Yeah, so it's good to know.
Yeah, my area, yeah.
You have a neighborhood association?
We didn't at the time, they do now.
I think probably that's the Railroad Garden West or whatever, is my
That was
guess.
12 years ago.
I'm part of Fort Howard, but.
All right,
All right.
I've got notes to get,
Directors,
both
got
of
it,
you
Got it.
Cool.
moving forward. Okay, from the March 7th meeting, the new business in terms of the PUD for 2400 block of University Avenue, the festival, Quick Trip, that was approved. There has been one alteration that council added. The existing billboard on the site needs to get moved to make room for the ADC power lines that are going through. Ultimately, it would be staff's preference, and I think planning preference from our directive to have that billboard eliminated entirely, just to make it go away. Logistically, I don't know if we have the tools to make that happen, so we're working towards accommodating it in a spot that meets the needs of staff, the developer, and also the billboard company who has a lease. So we are working through that right now. Most likely, I think the spot is going to be on the western edge of the property, closer to where the Quick Trip will be. One of the proposals had it up at the corner of University Ave and University Way. I just think in terms of redevelopment for a gateway, that's going to be a real hard sell for me to take back to the Plan Commission and staff instead of moving forward. Our ultimate preference, or other preference, was on University Way, though the billboard company's saying, okay, well, we're on State Highway right now, to move us to an inferior location, then maybe we'd want to go up a little bit higher, and I don't know, again, we're working, I mean, we want to provide some signage with the pylon signage and things like that, we just don't want to over clutter it with that. So that was, an amendment was made, and I don't think, was that the only amendment to the PUD?
That was it.
Okay. But I just wanted to refer that information back to you.
Thank you.
As far as other actions, the CUP for Sun Terrace and Facing Street was, no, that didn't go to council. And then I think we're good then. That was the only action item on. The other two were CUPs that were just here. So, that was it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Have a motion, a second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Just looking at a picture of it.
Well, till we meet again,
Great.
folks.